Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm chatting with filmmaker Sasha King about her documentary Vicky. Delighted to do this. Oh, we're so good. I'm delighted to have you in because I think it's something that's... I think the topic of this has just been so deeply shocking to anyone who's come across it. Then for you to kind of have framed it in such a human way, I don't think anyone could watch it without breaking down at least a few times.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. It's a very, very good place to be with the film, to have it out there now. I think we're really lucky to have, the film was made with the support of Screen Ireland, and then Volta are distributing it. I think we were really, really fortunate, really lucky to get Volta Element, who are now Volta, on board. They've become champions of the film now, and that seems to be what has happened on this journey. You know, I've kind of gathered these amazing champions along the way who kind of fight for the film to get out there and make sure it gets its proper release and out to as many people as possible. But Volta came on board, and it's gotten distribution, a cinema release basically all around the country. Like, it's in 23 cinemas. I mean, that's so unusual for a documentary film in Ireland. So yes, we're so thankful and grateful that the film is at this junction now where, you know, people can go see it. I just hope that they do, because, you know, cinema releases aren't for very long. And Volta's done this amazing strategy so that people in Dungarvan and Salt Hill and Limerick and you know, all over Belfast, all over Ireland can go and see the film and access it easily, you know.
It is something that really should be watched. So just tell me a little bit. First, I want to go into you as a filmmaker, and just if you could tell me a little bit about how you got to this point. What's your own journey?
Yeah, sure. So I've been making films for quite a long time. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. I think I produced my first film back in 2003. And I was in the music industry before that. So I was always in production in some capacity. I worked for a record label in London for a while as well, and then moved to New York and worked over there in the same capacity, and then came back to Dublin and started in film. But I produced quite a lot of productions, but I was always attracted to directing. I directed my first feature film in 2000, and it was released in 2017, called Akron, and we shot that in the States with an Irish DOP, Paddy Jordan, great guy. I brought a little team over with me, and we had a team over there as well. And Akron did really well. Like, it was picked up by Wolf Distribution and Hulu. So it had this amazing journey as well, and won some awards. But yeah, that was it. Once I'd done that, I was like, where's my next project, you know? And then I suppose that's a bit of a segue into what happened really with Vicky. So I had seen Vicky come out of the High Court on the news that day in April. I think it was April 25th. And I just was floored at what I was seeing and hearing, and, you know, listening to what she'd experienced and the emotion that was going through, you know, it was palpable through the TV. And I just could not get enough of the story, and I couldn't get her out of my mind. So I reached out to her. I mean, I really was compelled I really felt this overwhelming need to connect with her. And really, not just even as a filmmaker, it was just as an Irish woman. I had to talk to her. I had to tell her how we all felt about what was happening, and I felt actually the need to apologize to her. I can't explain it, but that's how I felt. And obviously then, as a filmmaker, the story was evolving very quickly in front of all of us. So I talked to her about depicting a portrayal of her behind the scenes, all that was going on. And she loved the idea, and we got along great. We really hit it off when we met, and we started filming immediately.
to get in sort of at the ground when something like this has happened, and to be the documentarian of it, like, I mean, in the truest sense of the word, that you're looking at history there, and something that's groundbreaking, because unfortunately a history that's repeating itself. Because I think what you're describing is exactly, I remember when hearing about Savita and going, oh Jesus, it's a systemic failing of women again and again, in this thoughtless, condescending way of the way the whole system is set up, and the way that these women suffer and are gaslit, like, the whole time. Their families are gaslit, and it's again, it's the same, like, systemic, and it's just been happening in a different form and taking a different shape. This is something that you'd think, okay, well, the documentary completely touches on this, and it does it so well. And I think that's one of the good things that you do, is you look at the intimate story of Vicky and her family, and then you kind of pull back to really delve into the politics of the situation as well.
Yeah, I mean, Cian O'Carroll says that, Cian O'Carroll being Vicky's solicitor and friend, he points out that, this is only one of many scandals, and what do they all have in common? Women's health. And it's really terrifying. Like, I'm not saying anything, new here by saying that we've had decades of mistreatment of women in this country. I mean, you just have to turn a corner and you can see another one. And it's really terrifying to think that this happened to Vicky in 2018. That's not very long ago. And then the audit was only a couple of years before that. And, this is we're living this history. This is very recent. So I just really felt compelled to document what was happening in real time, but what I wanted to do was show this other side of this extraordinary person, Vicky, this woman, this Irish woman who, had been given a 6 to 12 month, prognosis, a terminal prognosis, and she was still making decisions for the betterment of, Irish women and future generations. I mean, most people would, I don't know, would they? I suppose that's a question to ask. I suppose we think maybe, we'd all do that. I don't know that we would all do that. No. I think she's pretty unique in that way, and she's made some incredible changes to our system. I mean, she's the whistleblower. Yeah,
and it's so horrific as well that she had to be, when you think about how, like, they dragged her through the courts. They're dragging all those women out through the courts after everything. And then the fact that, I mean, she could have just sat down, had a quiet end of life, and knew that her family would be really taken care of. And instead she fought for everybody, which is just like, she's so brave. And I kind of think there's not one person in Ireland that could falter, like, oh my God. And like that, like, what she's done has been extraordinary, because of, like, you're exhausted.
Yeah I know. And this is why we're all drawn to her. I mean, when Vicky talks, we listen. Well, I certainly do, and I think anybody I've talked to does as well. She's this really intelligent, articulate, thoughtful person, but she has other people's best interests at heart. And, every choice and decision that she made was thinking of the rest of us as a wider community of people, And she says she's driven by not wanting anything like this to ever happen to her daughter, Amelia. So with that in mind, she's thinking of everyone, but she's extraordinary, and that's really what drew me to her. And like I said, we got on great. She's probably one of the best collaborators I'll ever work with. She is great fun as well, really warm, and we just came up with these strategies, and we were pinging emails and messages to each other, and it was a very, very productive couple of years of filming. I mean, she was in huge demand back then, and she was, first of all, the story was unfolding in front of us, but and the numbers of women and families involved was increasing by the week, you know. But also, you know, she was becoming an activist and an advocate for the 221 plus group that was emerging. I mean, she was going in and visiting Leo Varadkar, and she had Simon Harris on speed dial. I mean, we'd have little jokes about this, you know. She was constantly getting calls from politicians. They wanted to stay in touch with her. It was very important for certain people to, you know, communicate with her and keep her up to date. She's unbelievable, and I think we owe her a great debt of gratitude.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. Tell me a little bit about like things like you've good bits of footage. So did you get footage on the ground of everything? Could you be there for everything, or did you have to clear rights for stuff? Like, how did you compile everything?
Well, there's mixed media in the film, and you know, I didn't start off thinking there would be. You always want your film to be the best quality that it can be, so we always shot Vicky on 4K, and those scenes down on the beach, you know, with her reflecting and taking her walks are absolutely beautiful. I think stunning footage. And then, you know, because things were unfolding events were unfolding quickly, we couldn't be there all the time. So, you know, especially when Vicky was in the hospital, like, you're not supposed to film in a hospital. You're certainly not supposed to film unless you have, you know, just absolute permission to do so. Vicky, on the other hand, you know, when I said to her, listen, you're going in for your Pembro treatment, could you whip out your phone? Because I will not be able to get in there with the camera. Now, we did get our permissions after the fact, so we're good. We're cleared on all. But that just, this is the team that we became. And obviously then we were filming through 2018 and 2019 and into 2020, and then COVID struck. So we had to kind of pause the filming for a little while. And also then she went to the States to seek another, treatment clinical trial that was happening over there, and participate in that. So, you know, she was sending video and audio updates to me when I needed them. So it was fantastic that way. And, you know, I embrace that multimedia forum because, first of all, everybody's used to it. And secondly, it's the only way we could get some really tricky stuff. Like, for instance, when she's in the car and she just gets word that Emma Vic Fahuna has just passed away, I asked her to stop and take a video of a reaction because I thought it would be very poignant and important to include if we could. And she did, you know.
And it's a very it's a very difficult time to be filming people, and it must be very difficult as well as a filmmaker to watch this happen, because you can even see how in the film how affected her solicitor was by it. Like, it's just this really harrowing moment where he just stops and he's just talking about something, and like about how she had a communion that same day, and you know, and like that kind of the truthfulness, and I think those things, they really hit you. And like, again, like, it was just the afternoon and I'm working and I'm watching this and I'm bawling my eyes out. So it must be, I can imagine like living that, knowing her so closely, and then watching it over and over then in the edit. Like, did that take a toll on yourself?
It's so funny that you say that. Funny, it's the wrong word, but it's so interesting that you say that, because a friend of mine is Sharon Horgan, and we were talking about this over Christmas, and she was saying her brother worked on a podcast recently, and he had to, you know, kind of just watch himself as well because the material was tough that he was working on. And I think that while we were filming, I'm so fond of Vicky, you know, and we became very close. While we were filming, she was very, you know, she was very productive, and she was, the pembrolizumab was working for her. And we were, very busy. Now there was awful things happening, during that period. We had 3 women pass away. We were going to funerals, and if Vicky wasn't feeling well, there was always a huge concern. Of course, it was affecting me. Of course it was. But, Gemma, like, hand on my heart, I was able to go home and know that I was not part of this 221 plus group. I mean, my heart was broken for these women and families who I was meeting and talking to, and they entrusted me, and they were so generous with their stories. I mean, it's just unimaginable reality for those people. So whether I was feeling a little upset or moved or finding it difficult to film these people were actually living that as their reality. So that put me in check when I needed to be put in check in myself, or just keeping myself going. But yeah, it was interesting in the edit because we did an awful lot of editing during the COVID period, and actually it was really good to have some time to immerse ourselves in the footage, So that was a very, very good productive time for me anyway, and it was very important. And I don't know that I would have had that kind of time if COVID hadn't have, been around,
Yeah.
So I really needed to do that. I needed to take my time with what I felt a huge responsibility to tell this story and to tell the truth of what happened. And there's so many different directions you can go. It always came back to Vicky, and this extraordinary woman, and this portrayal of this Irish woman, and the choices and decisions she was making, and then the bigger story. But I was so privileged to get to film Stephen Teep in his home and Lorraine Walsh in her home. I mean, these people, they were just so incredibly generous,
What do you think about it? Like, people have lived through hell with this, but I think it's so infuriating as well to know where we are now and how little in some ways has changed. Like, the systems that allowed this to happen, they're shifting, like, but they're still very much in place, and you can feel it even when you go into maternity hospital. Like, the whole thing with the maternity hospital, in fact, it's so infuriating. And I think in some ways going, look, what is all this for? If you think you're going towards something and you're moving towards something and you're like, okay, well, at least there's change happening, and then you're like, oh my God, like, it's just happening again. I can just imagine the stress when those things come out, and then you're having to deal with that as well, just compounding, like, because of Joe blogs like me who can just turn off a screen or just go, oh, I'm just going to watch a romance film about cats or something like that. You're just like, oh, you can switch off. But I think if you're filmmaking, you're sort of living it, and in a weird way as well, you're not compartmentalized to like dealing with one bit of the situation, like you're dealing with the whole scope of it. It must, like, were you relieved when you finished?
Yes, but for lots of reasons. I think one, because I felt really good at the place that we landed.
Yeah.
I think that's really the main reason. I wanted to finish it while everybody was around, obviously, as well. I wanted Vicky to be happy with the film, and she is. Yeah. These were huge components, huge parameters for me, that I felt I was working within, that nobody else would really maybe even think about. But that was everything for me, that Vicky was seeing the film and seeing it evolve and happy with where it was going. And yeah, I mean, look, it's, change is always really slow, but I actually think a tremendous amount of change happened in the CervicalCheck program and the HSC just generally, with the activism and the whistleblowing of Vicky and Stephen and Lorraine. So, Gabriel Scally is a fantastic man, and he was brought in to do that independent review and report, and he had recommendations immediately. I mean, it's hard to comprehend that the HSC had no board. at all. That floored me that completely. I was just, I had no words. I could not I could not comprehend that. But yes, change generally on a kind of a global picture is slow, but what else can we do? We have to keep trying. And that's what Vicky, they're her messages that I think are coming through in the film, is like, I tried, I've succeeded, I've made, progress for you all. Now you continue to do it for yourselves. And that's all we can do, is just keep trying, because we are, it's like we're a progressive country, but then we're still behind on so many things and so many issues. And no doubt we have a desperate history, as I was saying, with how our Irish Manana Heron have been treated. So, yeah, all we can do is just keep pushing forward and insisting on things like transparency, getting our information, making sure that we get answers when we ask questions. Those days of the hierarchy of, the medical hierarchies, those days have to be gone at this point. It's, we deserve, like, the health system is our health system. It's ours, like, it's there to facilitate us, the Irish people. So, I think we just need to become more confident and just push for change.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, not leaving it go. Like the hospital, any time it comes up, like, no one will let that bone go. So it is being relentless and fighting for it. But I think, like, again, what Vicky has done is really kind of make a stand for that and really be like the role model, where it would have been just so easy to go, oh, I'll leave that for someone else. And I think that would have been like the traditional Irish way, where you're like, oh, don't cause us, But I do think and it's really powerful as well. Can you tell me a bit about the structuring the edit and kind of like getting those kind of feelings and hitting those notes and things like that? Did it change much during that process?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it did. You always kind of have a rough draft and of ideas that you want to come across. And then it's really just about shaping your intro and your outro and getting your story threads to work. I mean, it was an amazing process to go through. I mean, it was just as a filmmaker to be able to sit down with the footage and kind of do a rough assembly myself. I made sure I knew how to do that. And my editing chops are pretty good now, but it's just an incredible process. And yeah, I mean, Vicky is the thread of the story, but Cian O'Carroll is really, really important. He's not only is he her solicitor, but he keeps that kind of legal barometer going throughout, which is really important. I never wanted it to be a talking heads, documentary film. It was always, for me, I wanted it to be this more cinematic film, but you have to have the experts tell us what happened, because this is the reality of the situation, and the truth is that we need those people to tell us the facts of what happened, what could have happened, kind of thing. So I think we got the best key players to support the story as well. But I also think that Vicky, Stephen, and Lorraine just became so important to me. To me, they're like this. Well, they're like this trinity of kind of activism in our country now, and it's terrible because Vicky is, has a terminal prognosis because of this. Stephen has lost his beautiful young wife, Irene, and Lorraine can't have children. So they're all individually deeply affected, like life-changing. Things have happened to them because of this. And yet they're so drawn to each other, and they're so they've become great friends, and they're just determined to keep going and to keep pushing for all of us. So yeah, they were the core. definitely. But I think we have some beautiful cinematic footage of Vicky at the beginning and throughout, and towards the end. There's a lovely piece of footage of her with a song called "This Fight" that was written for the film just towards the end, and it's yeah, the song, the track, and
I
the
thought the
piece of
lyrics
footage
of
is
that
really striking.
were too, I was like, they're so specific. Wow, how did you find that song? I didn't realize it was purposely written. That makes way more sense now.
Yeah. Well, that was actually written by my partner Bill. To be honest with you, we were talking about this anthem. Bill produced the film with me as well, and he wrote all of the music except the tracks that we brought in. Like Brezzy has a track at the end over the end titles, and we have another track from a lady called Anya Morgan, "I'm Still Here," and she was a lady who campaigned with Vicky to get pembrolizumab for all other women successfully. And the Stunning are in there as well, of course, Vicky's favourite band. But the track "This Fight" was something that I had in my mind that Bill and I were talking about for months. And I always thought that we should have an anthem, a siren, like a kind of a calling to attention for and from Vicky. So yeah, we worked on that, and actually my two sons sing it, so it worked out good. we recorded it over COVID. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful track.
It's gorgeous. Oh wow. And yeah, it sounds like a real sort of intense process, like the whole thing, even that kind of editing process as well, like if it's that long and you're completely locked down. What do you think were the takeaways that you learned from that, or that you'd really put that and you'd be like, okay, well, I'll never do that again, or I would have in hindsight done this differently, or anything? Like, what were the lessons that you learned?
Oh gosh, I mean, I suppose just to give yourself the enough time. I think that became really valuable and important to the process. We captured, incredible footage, and we have so much footage that has not been used, and interviews that we thought, oh, we don't need it now. Like, we kept having to, come back to, what is the main, message going out here? What are the other parallel messages that we want to portray? So there's an awful lot of footage that we don't use, and it really was only just about the what allowed us to get to that place was time to basically go through every single thing a few times, process it, try and assemble it and see if the relevance as the story was evolving, and then actually make those decisions to go, no, that's just a little surplus, or that's taking us down a different road, a different direction that we don't really want to go now. So yeah, so I think just editing time I would put into my budget the next time, definitely. Make sure there's a lot of it.
And now it's out in the world.
Now it's out in the world.
Getting feedback and things. Have you had many people contact you after the film?
Yeah, like it's been constant, and it's been very, very positive, and I am so thankful for that. You always there's always an anxiety around releasing your work. I mean, even though Vicky is loved by everyone, it's another side to her, it's a portrayal of her, so there's always a little bit of worry and anxiety, but generally everybody is loving the film and understands that it's an important film and it's an inspiring film. Although it's a harrowing, truthful story of what has happened to our beautiful Irish women and families, we have to know this. And I think if I've done anything right, I've documented this period of time in one place, so we can always refer to it, and no one can say this didn't happen or it didn't happen like that, because we've got the key contributors telling us exactly what did happen. And then we see this side of this beautiful woman kind of carrying us through it as well,
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for chatting with us as well. That was just Like, it was fabulous.
Thank you very much, Gemma.